The clock on Ryan's wall ticked softly against the silence of his apartment. The city outside had already surrendered to the night, streetlights flickering like distant fireflies, the hum of passing cars fading into a muted rhythm. Ryan sat on the couch, his laptop open but untouched, a half-finished cup of tea cooling beside him. His boyfriend, Liam, had texted hours ago, working late again. Don't wait up. It was the third time that week. Ryan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Their conversations had become mechanical, brief, polite, predictable. The warmth that once filled their shared evenings had thinned into something fragile and unfamiliar. Loneliness, a quiet ache that never announced itself, had slowly taken residence in his chest. His thoughts wandered to Ethan, his cousin. They hadn't spoken regularly for years until a family gathering a few months earlier. Ethan had just moved back to the city after years abroad. That night, Ryan remembered how easily the two of them had talked, about art, music, and the restlessness that seemed to follow them both. Ethan's laughter had been effortless, almost contagious, and Ryan had felt something shift inside him, something he couldn't name at the time that he told himself it was admiration, nothing more. Now, as the digital clock flashed 11:14 p.m., Ryan scrolled through his messages. His thumb paused over Ethan's last text from days ago, "We should catch up sometime." The message had gone unanswered. For reasons he didn't entirely understand, Ryan typed, "Are you awake?" A few seconds later, the three dots appeared. "Yeah. Can't sleep." "What's up?" Ryan hesitated, feeling the pulse in his wrist quicken. He stared at the screen, then wrote before he could second-guess himself, "Come over. Just to talk." Another pause, then Ethan's reply arrived. "At this hour? You sure?" Ryan exhaled slowly and wrote, "Yeah. Just come." When he set the phone down, the reality of what he'd done began to sink in. He wasn't sure why he wanted Ethan there. Maybe he just wanted company, or maybe he wanted to fill the silence Liam had left behind. Whatever the reason, it didn't feel entirely innocent, and that troubled him. 20 minutes later, a soft knock echoed through the apartment. Ryan opened the door, and Ethan stood there, hood up, eyes reflecting the faint glow of the corridor light. "Hey," Ethan said, his voice low, uncertain. "You really meant it?" Ryan stepped aside, gesturing him in. "Yeah. Couldn't sleep either." Ethan smiled faintly, slipping off his shoes. The air between them was oddly charged, though neither seemed to know why. Ryan poured 2 cups of tea, trying to hide the tremor in his hands. "So," Ethan said, taking a seat by the window, "what's keeping you awake tonight?" Ryan hesitated. "Just, life. Work. Liam." He forced a laugh. "He's been distant lately. I guess I needed someone to talk to." Ethan nodded, his expression softening. "It happens. People drift, even when they're right beside you." The simplicity of his words caught Ryan off guard. They talked for an hour, about small things at first, then about loneliness, about the pressure of pretending everything was fine. The conversation moved like a quiet current, carrying them deeper without their realizing. Outside, the wind picked up, rain began to patter against the glass. Ethan leaned back, watching the storm. "Funny," he murmured, "the sound of rain always makes me feel less alone." Ryan turned to him. "Maybe because it reminds us everyone's under the same sky, getting drenched in their own way." Their eyes met. For a long second, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, it was intimate, almost fragile. Ryan felt a pulse of warmth in his chest, a mixture of comfort and fear. He looked away first, pretending to check his phone. "Getting late," he said quietly, though he didn't really want him to leave. Ethan smiled, a hint of something unreadable in his expression. "Yeah. I should go soon." He stood, walking toward the door, but stopped halfway. "Thanks for calling me over. You sounded like you needed it." Ryan nodded. "I did." After Ethan left, Ryan closed the door and leaned against it. The apartment felt heavier now, filled with the echo of things left unsaid. He moved to the window, watching the rain blur the streetlights below. For reasons he couldn't explain, he touched the message thread on his phone again, rereading the simple exchange that had brought Ethan there. A single thought crossed his mind, quiet but impossible to ignore: something changed tonight, and though nothing had truly happened, Ryan sensed that everything had begun. Ryan woke before sunrise, the faint gray light spilling across his apartment. The air felt still, as if the night hadn't yet loosened its hold. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone on the nightstand. Ethan's name lingered at the top of his recent messages, a silent reminder of the invitation he wished he could take back. Nothing had happened, he told himself again. They had only talked. Still, the memory of Ethan's gaze, the rain-soaked quiet, and that unspoken charge between them refused to fade. It wasn't what he'd done that unsettled him, it was what he'd felt. By the time Liam came home that evening, exhaustion was written across his face. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loose, and his smile mechanical. "Hey," he said, brushing past Ryan to drop his bag on the counter. "Sorry, long day." Ryan tried to sound casual. "We haven't had dinner together in a week." Liam didn't look up. "Deadlines, You know how it is." Ryan nodded, but something inside him deflated. The space between them had become a quiet battlefield, no arguments, no drama, just an invisible wall neither knew how to climb. He wanted to tell Liam about last night, to confess the strange pull he felt toward Ethan, but he knew it would sound wrong, or worse, meaningless. When the doorbell rang, both of them froze. Ryan wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door and there was Ethan, holding a book Ryan had lent him months ago. "I was in the area," Ethan said, eyes darting past Ryan to where Liam stood. "Thought I'd drop this off." Liam's expression tightened, but he forced a polite nod. "Hey, Ethan. Been a while." The air felt too still, too rehearsed. They spoke briefly, small talk about family, work, and weather, yet every sentence felt like it was being measured. When Ethan finally left, Liam's voice broke the silence. "You didn't tell me he was back in town." Ryan hesitated. "I didn't think it mattered." Liam gave a small, humorless laugh. "You never think anything matters until it does." He turned away, and for the first time, Ryan noticed the exhaustion in Liam's posture wasn't just physical, it was emotional, worn down from years of holding something fragile together. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The quiet felt louder than ever. He sat by the window, watching the moonlight paint the floor, until he finally picked up his phone. Without thinking, he typed, "We need to talk." Ethan arrived a half hour later, hair damp from the mist outside. "You okay?" he asked softly. Ryan nodded, though his voice betrayed him. "I shouldn't have asked you to come over last night." Ethan looked away, hands in his pockets. "I know. But I'm not sorry I came." Ryan's chest tightened. "Why?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "Because it's the first time in years someone made me feel understood." His voice faltered, then steadied. "Ryan, I think I've felt something for you for a long time. I just never said it because it didn't make sense. You're family, and you're with Liam. But last night, I saw it in your eyes too." Ryan froze. He wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to say Ethan was mistaken, but the truth sat too close to the surface. He did feel something he didn't have words for. "You're wrong," Ryan whispered, though it sounded like a lie even to himself. Ethan stepped closer, not touching him, but near enough that Ryan could feel the warmth of his breath. "Then tell me you didn't feel it." Ryan's silence was answer enough. For a long moment, they stood there, neither moving, neither speaking. The distance between them was small, but the consequences loomed like a shadow. Ryan finally looked away, breaking the spell. "You should go," he said, his voice trembling. Ethan's expression softened, regret flickering in his eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make this harder." After he left, Ryan sank onto the couch, covering his face with his hands. He wasn't angry, just hollow. What scared him wasn't Ethan's confession, it was how deeply it echoed something he had tried to ignore for too long that he thought of Liam, how love between them had become obligation, how silence had replaced affection. And for the first time, Ryan wondered whether emotional betrayal was any less real than the physical kind. Outside, the city lights shimmered through the mist. He sat there until dawn, the weight of the night pressing against him like an unspoken truth. He didn't know what he'd lost or what he'd found, but he knew something inside him had shifted, and there was no way back. Morning came heavy, gray, and silent. Ryan sat at the kitchen table, his untouched coffee cooling beside him. The night's conversation replayed in fragments, Ethan's voice trembling with confession, his own silence heavy with guilt. He hadn't crossed any visible line, yet the weight of what he'd felt clung to him like fog. When Liam emerged from the bedroom, Ryan saw the faint dark circles under his eyes. He wondered if Liam sensed it, if love, once pure, could detect even an invisible fracture. "You're up early," Liam said, his tone soft but distant. "Yeah," Ryan replied. "Couldn't sleep." Liam moved around the kitchen quietly, his movements habitual and tired. When he finally spoke again, his words were gentle but sharp. "You've been somewhere else lately. Even when you're right here." Ryan tried to meet his eyes, but the truth made him flinch. "I'm just tired, that's all." "Then rest," Liam said simply, but the pause that followed was long enough to say what neither dared to. He poured his coffee, grabbed his keys, and left for work without another word. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed felt like a verdict. By afternoon, Ryan received a message from Ethan. "We should talk." For a moment, Ryan considered ignoring it, but the need for closure outweighed his fear. He agreed to meet him that evening in a quiet park near the old bridge, where the city lights reflected softly over the water. When Ethan arrived, he looked different, calmer, almost resigned. "I didn't come to make things harder," he said. "I just needed to say it out loud before I disappear." Ryan's heart tightened. "Disappear?" Ethan nodded. "I'm leaving again. I got a job offer in another city. It's for the best." The wind carried their words across the empty park. Ryan felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. "I don't know what any of this means anymore," he admitted. "I just know I hurt people I care about without even realizing it." Ethan looked at him, eyes soft but steady. "You didn't hurt me, Ryan. You just showed me something I needed to see. That sometimes, what we want isn't what we're meant to have." Ryan's voice faltered. "And Liam?" Ethan smiled faintly. "You'll figure that out. Maybe honesty is the only thing left worth trying." They stood in silence for a while, the wind rustling through the leaves. Then Ethan said quietly, "Take care of yourself." When he walked away, Ryan didn't call after him. Watching Ethan's silhouette fade into the fog felt like watching a part of himself dissolve into the night. Later that evening, Ryan returned home to find Liam packing a small bag. The sight froze him. "What are you doing?" he asked. Liam didn't look up. "A friend offered me a place for a while. I think we both need space." Ryan felt his throat tighten. "Liam, wait." Liam turned to him, eyes tired but calm. "You don't have to explain. I don't know what's been happening inside you lately, but I can feel it. Maybe it's not about anyone else. Maybe it's about you not knowing what you need anymore." Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," Liam said softly. "But sometimes people hurt each other just by staying the same when everything else has changed." He zipped his bag and paused at the door. "Take care of yourself, Ryan. Find out what you really want. Don't let silence decide for you." Then he was gone. The apartment felt hollow, stripped of its warmth. Ryan walked to the window and watched the city pulse below, 1,000 lives moving forward while his stood still. For days, he wandered through his routine like a ghost, haunted not by loss, but by understanding that it wasn't Ethan's confession or Liam's departure that broke him. It was realizing how quietly love can fade when left unspoken. Weeks later, he found himself sitting by the same park bench where he'd last seen Ethan. The sky was pale gold, the air cleaner somehow. He opened his phone, scrolling past old messages until he stopped on Ethan's final text, "Maybe we were both just searching for warmth in the wrong place." He read it once more before deleting it. For the first time in a long while, Ryan felt stillness, painful but honest. He knew he couldn't undo what had happened, but he could learn from it. Love wasn't a thing to possess or define, it was something to nurture, or else watch quietly slip away. As the sun dipped below the bridge, Ryan whispered to the fading light, "Sometimes the people who change everything aren't meant to stay, they're just meant to show us who we really are." And with that, he stood, took a long breath, and began to walk home.